Whenever I despair for the West, I think about Leonidas and the 300 at Thermopylae. 300 men, now they died to the last man, but they took 30,000 Persians with them. 300 men killed 30,000. I don't celebrate anyone's death, but those 300 men saved Greece, saved the West. We say, what can one man do to change the world? Well, that was 300 men, not one, but Leonidas was one man, and leadership is the amplification of one man's will. Without Leonidas, there would be no 300. Without the 300, there would be no Greece. There would be no West. There would be no you, me, this internet through which we commune. None of that would exist. And I know that a great many people have great heroic hopes invested in Donald Trump. I promise you those hopes are to be dashed. Donald Trump is not Henry V. We've talked about this before. He's not even Prince Hal. He was second son, not the first son, like little Kimmy Jong-un, the tragic rap star king of North Korea, the world's greatest shithole. Also a second son, not intended to be the pretend king, the phantom king, the prom king. Little Kimmy had his big brother killed just to make sure nobody made a mistake and tried to get rid of little Kimmy. He will successfully assassinate the rest of his relatives, and anyone else who gets anywhere near him will end up dead. Everyone who imagines, this is so funny, everyone who imagines that it would be so wonderful. It's good to be the king, said Mel Brooks in one of his films. It's good to be the king. No, it's awful to be the king. It's terrible to be the king. It's terrible for Trump right now. To have all these great hopes invested in him is perhaps the least tragic thing about his life. We are in the midst of the death of a fall guy. We talked about the fall guy strategy during the election. I believe that Obama, at least, and the Obama machine, which possibly includes George Soros, but plausibly at that time did not include Hillary Clinton, were scheming to make sure that a Republican won the presidential election. This was the president fall guy strategy. This is why the slow succession of leaks against Hillary, this is why the Podesta emails were leaked, why the FBI made two head fakes toward an arrest of Hillary. All of that was designed to undermine Hillary against the incredible weakness of Donald Trump as a presidential candidate. But the fall guy strategy, when it was concocted, plausibly was concocted to be tailor-made for someone like Jeb Bush or Mitt Romney or John McCain or Mario Rubio, someone like that, a more typical Republican. The strategy of the Marxist since Reagan, really, but especially since George Herbert Walker Bush, has been, if it looks like a Bush, kill it like a Bush. And they anticipated electing a Republican as president in order to knock down the whole house of cards of Marxism and blame it on the Republican, knowing full well that Jeb Bush or Mitt Romney or whomever would be so cowardly as to take the blame. They did not anticipate Donald Trump. They had to successively undermine Hillary's campaign again and again and again in order to get Trump across the finish line. They barely dragged him across the finish line anyway. And of course, immediately set about trying to undermine him much as if he were a Bush, but he's not a Bush. They can't kill him like a Bush. So far, they haven't successfully killed him like a Bush. He's successfully fought back against them, arguably blow for blow. This nonsense this weekend about the Trump Tower being tapped, who knows if it's true or not. The Russian influence on the election is obviously a joke. The one thing that they can point to that is allegedly Russian influence is obviously the DNC, and is obviously at Obama's direction, the release of the Podesta emails to WikiLeaks. This is clearly an inside job from the Democratic Party, undermining Hillary, because as lousy a candidate as Hillary was, Trump was worse. They had to keep knocking the stilts out from under her, she might accidentally have won. And that's the worst thing that could have happened, is for a Marxist to be in the White House when Marxism collapses. They intended for Jeb Bush, in particular, to take the blame for the collapse of Marxism, and Trump has really frustrated that objective. The second great error, I think, in the President Fall Guy strategy was the presumption that the conservative coalition consisted of God, guns, and globalism, that there were religious conservatives, there were NRA-type conservatives, and there were Wall Street-type conservatives, rent-seeking conservatives, and that those three tent poles were holding up the Republican coalition, the conservative coalition, and yet they were really had nothing in common with each other. The pro-guns people were plausibly part of the pro-God coalition and vice versa, but the globalism coalition obviously was dead set against the American working man, the blue-collar working man. And, you know, gods and guns and blue collars, these things go together. Gods, guns, and white collars, not so much, and white collars against blue collars, oh my God, welcome to America in 2017. And so this was an error on the part of the people who made this strategy, probably an error on the part of the people who run the conservative and Republican movements also, not understanding who it is who makes up their party, because the actual conservative coalition in the United States is not built around gods, guns, globalism. It's built around private property and propriety. It's built around hard work pays off, and hard work should pay off. These are the ideas that drive the American spirit and always have. These are the ideas that brought people to this country from wherever they came from, because they wanted to work hard and they wanted to benefit. They wanted to reap the fruits of having worked hard. And they believe it's right and just that the person who worked so hard should benefit from his efforts. And this, the Property and Propriety Party, is the actual Tea Party. This is the true Tea Party movement, was composed of people who believed that hard work does pay off and that hard work should pay off. These are the true Americans. And these are very much the core of Donald Trump's reluctant supporters. His red meat supporters, his, you know, whether it's God's guns or anti-globalism, the rah-rah-rah supporters, the people who go to Trump's rallies, are a different kettle of fish. But the voters who mattered to Trump are the Property and Propriety Party, which is the true Tea Party, which is the true conservative movement in the United States. And it is that Property and Propriety Party that is most eager to see propitious results from the Trump administration. True results, and not smoke and mirrors, and not slapboxing, not fake news fights, my fake news versus your fake news. Not clique wars or whispered innuendo wars or Washington political infighting wars, not inside baseball of any sort at all. These people are sick to death of Washington, and what they're interested in is a Washington that gets out of the way of hard work and gets out of the way of reaping the benefits of hard work, gets out of the way of people doing their best to achieve the best that they can from their lives in their families, in their marriages, in their homes, in their careers, in their hobbies, their passions and pastimes. These are people who want government to the extent that they want it at all. They want government that gets out of the way of their own exercise of their free moral agency. They want to be free. And they want to be free in the only ways that matter: the freedom to pursue your values and the freedom to reap them, to realize them. That's what those people voted for, and that's what they want to see. What they saw this week of Mr. Trump, you can erase everything back to Tuesday. Nothing happened before Tuesday. Donald Trump gave a speech, and he looked like Mitt Romney. He looked like Jeb Bush. He looked like John McCain. He looked like Barack Obama, if you want, because he was reading from a teleprompter just the same way that Barack Obama would have been doing. Holy cow, our president is Dr. Scripted. He's a man we can trust. He's a normal Republican. He's a Bush. We know how to kill a bush. If it looks like a bush, kill it like a bush. Well, is Dr. Scripted our president, or is our president Mr. Tweet? That was my question after Tuesday's speech. It was fully answered by Saturday morning. Our president is Mr. Tweet. He is exactly what he looked like all along. He is a barstool Napoleon from Queens who has an opinion on anything that he intends to back up with absolutely zero effort, including the effort necessary to find out what the hell it is that he's talking about. Our president is a buffoon. He's an idiot. He's a poser. He's an incandescent pretending to be a driven, and the pretense is wearing thin. Meanwhile, his incandescent persona has made so many statements that are both appealing to the Property and Propriety Party and amazingly abhorrent to Marxists of all flavors. Trump's rhetoric is an existential threat to Marxism, which is why they're attacking him with such furor, with such a frenzy. And their objective is to hack at Trump until he looks like a bush, so they can kill him like a bush. If it looks like a bush, kill it like a bush. They know how to kill a bush. And they're going to hack at Trump until he looks like a bush. It really doesn't matter what Trump might have done, what Trump would have done, what Trump could have done. What really does matter is what Trump does do. And what Trump does do is get poked at and squeal. And he gets poked at and he squeals. And he gets poked at and he squeals. And he's been doing it his whole life in the opposite direction, poking at people and making them squeal. The bully is being bullied, and he's being persistently and repeatedly bullied, and he's being bullied by experts. A vast mob of expert bullies. Can Trump out-bully the bullies? That really is the mystery of our age. Can Trump out-bully his bullies? This is a war of bullies. There is no reason to this. There is no reason, no rigor, and no righteousness. There is nothing right about any of this. There is nothing of the mind to this. This is all emotional tribalism, bullies versus bullies. Evanescent, transient mobs of bullies mobbing up in different directions depending on the controversy of the microsecond. And none of this has anything to do with reason, and arguably none of this has anything to do with Athens or the West or anything that Leonidas fought for. But the question for the Property and Propriety Party is, can Trump hold Thermopylae? Can Trump hold the hot gates? Are there 300 for Trump to stand up against 30,000 employees of Barack Obama employed through Organizing for America and other Soros-funded organizations? Can there be Leonidas and 300 to withstand that onslaught of 30,000 paid professional bullies? But it's still just bully versus bully. And the war for the West, if it's to be fought at all, is going to be fought from within your own mind. And accordingly, my argument to all of the people who believe in property and who believe in propriety, who believe in a fairness, a fundamental fairness, all of those people, keep your own counsel and look out for your own. Because Trump is not Henry V. Trump is not Leonidas. Trump is not even Prince Hal. Trump is not even little Kim Jong-un. Trump is a pathetic loser who's going to implode on TV and Twitter. So keep your own counsel and look out for your own. And I'll talk to you soon.